Yo, so in this video, I'm going to tell you all about 6 different tips and tricks which will help you push further in Battlegrounds. These are going to vary from gameplay tips, from drafting tips, basically your entire Battlegrounds game as a whole. So yeah, let's just get started. First thing is if you want to push in Battlegrounds, rank defenders as your priority. Like if you're deciding if you should take a attacker or a defender to rank 3, most of the time it's better to do the defender, and I'll tell you why now. Most good Battlegrounds attackers can nuke most fights at rank 2 7-star or even an ascended 6-star. Most Battlegrounds attackers really don't get that much of a speed increase going from rank 2 to rank 3, but defenders gain much more of a benefit because the extra health they gain from the rank 3 is multiplied in Battlegrounds, of course, on defense, so they end up gaining much more of a benefit. Pretty much all defenders become a lot tankier at rank 3, and it's just not that noticeable for attackers. And if you look at most of the top players in Battlegrounds, you'll notice that most of their rank 3 7-stars are defenders, and there's a good reason for that. Like I said, it's just defenders gain a lot more benefit from being rank 3 than attackers do. So, yeah, if you want to push in Battlegrounds, you're much better off ranking defenders and dual use champions than pure attackers for Battlegrounds. The next tip is getting more and more important. The AI is getting more and more passive, and the AI loves to parry you, right? So it's getting kind of scary to intercept. Well, don't worry, because there is a way to work around it. The sidestep. Now, this doesn't work on every champ, but there's many champs that it works on. Domino, Killmonger, Photon, and it's just a nice way to get a easy opening without having to intercept or bait a heavy attack, because 7-stars with the block penetration have massive block damage. So yeah, you definitely want to learn how to do this. All the top Battlegrounds players do it. It's actually pretty easy to do. You literally just dex the first medium and retaliate with either a medium attack or a light attack. Some champions it's better to do a medium, some champions it's better to do a light. I recommend just using the practice mode to practice against defenders you're not sure this works against, because honestly, this sidestep works against so many different defenders. If I was to list them all, I'd be here all day. But yeah, that's a really nice piece of tech. Really useful thing for pushing Battlegrounds. Helps you avoid so much block damage. Lets you get free openings. The next one is pretty commonly known, but I'm sure there'll be a lot of new people to Battlegrounds watching this video, so I thought it's better to mention it. When you start out your draft, try to draft dual use champions, champions that are good on attack and defense, because it just gives you more options and it helps stop you from being out draft. Like, let's say for example, your first draft pick is Archangel. Your opponent can draft around AA by picking bleed immunes or poison immunes. Or if your first draft pick is Maestro, your opponent will have time to find a counter to Maestro, so he will be a potato because he's not very good on attack. But if you draft someone like Domino or Onslaught as your first draft pick, you're set, because if they don't get a good counter to them, you can place them on defense. But if they do get a good counter to them, you can just flip it round and use them on attack. So yeah, always try to draft dual use champions to start out the draft. But there is a exception to this rule. Some metas there are really broken attackers, like for example Ronan in a meta where your opponent gains lots of buffs. So if it's a meta like that and there's a broken OP attacker, yeah, auto draft them for sure. But otherwise, always try to draft dual use champions for your first 1 or 2 draft picks. So the next tip, basically, don't use your striker as soon as you get it. With a lot of champions, it's best to save your striker until you enter your damage phase. Like for example, when I'm using crossbones, I'm not going to use my striker as soon as I get it. I'm going to use my striker when I get about 8 or 9 furies to get the most damage out of the striker. With CGR, I'm not going to use my striker before the SB2. I'm going to use it after the SB2 to get in an extra combo and more damage, etc. Basically, always save your striker until your champion has entered their damage phase. This can be the difference between finishing fights in 50 seconds and finishing fights in 30 seconds. Honestly, it makes a massive difference for some champions. Always try to finish as high health as possible. This may sound obvious, but I see so many people rushing fights to the point where they're constantly making mistakes. If you finish high health, you get a lot more points than if you finish fights fast. So always try to finish as high health as possible, because people make mistakes more often than you think they would. And yeah, if you constantly finish fights at high health, your Battlegrounds win rate will go up. Just take your time. Well, not take your time, but don't rush fights. Don't rush to the point where you're making silly mistakes, where you're messing up easy fights, because honestly, finishing high health gives you so many more points than finishing the fight fast. This next one is going to take a bit of explaining, but I always see people making mistakes like this, so I think it's best to go over it. So, let's say you're in the second round, you've lost the first round, and your opponent has two defenders. One of their defenders is Domino, who you have a counter for, and you know you can finish the fight fast and at 100% health. And they have a Tumor, who you don't have a great counter for, and you're probably going to take some chip damage, and it may be a slow fight. Your opponent places Domino, so what are you going to do? You're going to save your best defender for the last round. This gives you a much better chance of winning the game, because if you give your opponent a easy defender next round and you have a tricky fight which you don't have a counter for, then they're obviously going to beat you. But if you both have non-ideal matchups in the last round and you both do ideal matchups in the second round, it's fair and you actually have a chance to win. Of course, if they place their best defender in the second round, you also place your best defender. I've seen so many people throw a game they could have won because they wasted their best defender in the second round like that. But yeah, that's it for the tips and tricks. Actually, I do have a bonus tip. Always ban Serpent. Don't rank him. Serpent, if you don't have a counter for him, and there's very few counters, you're instantly going to lose the round, right? Why would you want to subject yourself to that? Just ban him. Just ban Serpent. But yeah, that's the end of the video. If you enjoyed this, I could definitely make a part 2. So comment if you want that. I hope it helped you. I hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, I'd appreciate it if you could leave a like and subscribe. And I will see you all in the next video.